What's happening, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Crossed Up. Oh, no, Anthony, that's where I'm at. It's fighting words. I'll tell you what, right off the bat, it's not smooth. That's okay. We're going to let people come in live today. I'm going to be super raw about this. Just dumpster fire work stuff right now. In front of the computer, like 14 hours yesterday. So when football starts, when you have big football moments, especially around the NFL, that's when things really heat up for me.
Yeah.
So the Super Bowl, week one, like I'm in the middle of it. And now they play the Brazil game on Friday night like they did last year. So you don't get to come up for air. It's just straight through the tunnel, 5 straight days. And then you get the Eagles last night, game's over or whatever it was, like 12-15, no sleep. So yeah, it's fighting words. It's not crossed up.
Yeah, you just pulled a Jody Mack right there because he does radio at like for 6 different outlets,
7 different channels or stations at WFAN. So
he always gives out the wrong numbers. Says it's the wrong station, and you just called our podcast the old name. Which
it's funny. You spend 4 months dialed into every pitch of the Phillies, and when I say you, I mean me. And then this weekend rolls around. I love football, but when you combine the fanatical part of it that I have about the Eagles, but then you combine it with the workload that it carries, the Phillies just kind of like go away for me for a little bit. They take a step back. Like I watched the games this week. I've certainly watched yesterday. But like it's like we do this show and I'm like, oh, I gotta put the Phillies hat back on. I gotta flip that switch again. So we're back here. It's Friday. It's fighting words. It's Anthony Sanfilippo.
I'm surprised I'm awake because I had to do the takeaways on the Eagles game last night from Patterson.
Were you there? Were you covering it live?
No. You have to give me, it has to be very worth my while financially to actually go down to a freaking football game. Like,
is that just because it's a shit show from a media standpoint, or
from every standpoint, it's a shit show. It's a shit show getting into the parking lot. It's a shit show navigating your way into the stadium. It's a shit show up in the press box. It's a shit show post game, afterwards, and availabilities and how long it takes. And I mean, I think Nick Sirianni finished. I mean, it was like 1:30. It was like ridiculous, like the time. And I'm sitting there like, and now people have to go back and write. And it was I didn't go to bed almost 3 o'clock in the morning, and and then I had to wake up this morning to do this, right? Like, so it was rough, it was miserable. So I'm right there with you. I get it. Football is its own animal, and we just accept it. We accept every bit of it because of what it is, because of how important it is. But man, it sucks.
Well, as for the Phillies, 2 out of 3 this week in Milwaukee. I thought, Monday you got the game of the year, basically. Punch, counter punch, overcoming adversity, a number of big hits, big plays, obviously some mistakes mixed in. Great game, though. You get the day off, which is rare in the middle of the series. You come back on Wednesday, and you get buried early by Aaron Nola, and that's going to be one of the things I think we really need to talk about today. But yesterday, with Ranger Suarez on the mound, you go out and you're not hitting it all early in the game. Scratch across a couple runs late. Bullpen does its job. Great defense by Harrison Bader. And like, it's funny, Anthony, like so many other times this year, I watch these games this week and I go, God, this team is just tough to watch and tough to take. And then you blink and they walk away with a great series win in a place that's really hard to win. And, it's like, it doesn't feel good. You don't feel great about it, like as you consume it, but it's hard to argue with the end result. And right now, the end result for the Phillies is pretty damn good.
And then you look around the league and you see the Dodgers are getting swept by the Pirates.
Swept by the friggin' Pirates. And I know the Phillies did too in Pittsburgh, but my God, like, it's go time now. It's September. You're playing for a bye, and you get swept by the Pirates.
And Padres keep losing.
Padres can't win. The Mets,
just can't pitch. Although they just called up a 3rd rookie pitcher, they're going to rely on 3 rookie pitchers now to try and get them to where they want to go.
They've essentially overhauled that staff from the start of the year. I mean, it's half the staff has been replaced. Yeah. It's crazy, but both between the relievers and starters. So, I mean, Mets had an okay week. They win 2 out of 3 in Detroit, which is nice, but they don't get Skubal. They kind of got the JV version of the Tigers. Some guy I never heard of with a 6 ERA and Charlie Morton. I mean, come on.
And not only that, didn't they end up losing a half game here to the Phillies?
It's just like thing? It's good to be the Phillies right now. You have control of this division. You are starting
up on the Dodgers,
starting to gain a little room at this bye, and you have an opportunity this weekend against a Marlins team who has shown some chippiness at times this year, but is certainly cooled off after they kind of reached the 500 mark. You say, whoa, could the Marlins get themselves into this? And they've taken a step back now as well. So it sets up well here for the Phillies in the short term, and they really have an opportunity coming up here over the next week or so to solidify their position in the National League. I think there's so many problems with this team. Like, we've talked about it so many times. Like, I don't really believe in it. I think it's a 93-win team that could show up and maybe make a run. I don't think it will. But as you start to watch this thing unfold, you go, well, why not? And certainly you can, if you ask that in a rhetorical sense, it can be quickly answered. I'll tell you why not. But there is a little bit of this thing, Anthony, where you're like, maybe.
So here's the thing, Bob, and this is I think the best way to look at it. If the Phillies fail to win the World Series, the reasons that they're going to fail are everything that are all the warts that we talk about on this show every week. But because there is so much mediocrity in the sport, they have just as good an ability, if not better than most teams, of overcoming those flaws to actually get it done. So, but the odds are still going to be, look, there's 12 teams that are going to make the playoffs. Only one of them is going to win the World Series. The Phillies are going to be about, somewhere between 10 to 15% chance of winning, and that's great. That's a high number in reality. But that means that there's an 85 to 90% chance of not winning the World Series.
Sure.
And the 85 to, if the reason for them not winning it are all the things that we talk about as their flaws. That's why they won't win it, right? So that's just the nature of it, I think, this season.
All right. So you talk about flaws and why they won't win it. And I think there are a lot of positive things to talk about today. And you and I quickly just did a little pre-show notes session back and forth after I made you wait 30 minutes to do the show. We're supposed to start the show at 10 a.m. today, and I was just totally off the grid. My phone died. I was in a meeting. I look up and I plug my phone back in. Anthony's like, yo, man, I'm afraid you died on your run today. I'm like, a little morbid, but fair. So this is where I would start on the negative side of things. I thought that you would get a better Aaron Nola upon his return from the injured list, and his first start out against the Nationals after 3 months off wasn't great. And you kind of can build in excuses for that. There was some encouraging stuff in that second start against Washington. He went 6 innings. He only allowed 2 earned runs, pitched out of some trouble. Then the third start, we can kind of sugarcoat it and say, well, it got off to a rocky start, and then he calmed down and gave you 6 innings, and that's all fine and well. But he got off to a terrible start in that game against the Braves. Then the Phillies go on to score 19 runs. It's more of the same against the Brewers this week. Another horrible first inning where he just looks totally ill-prepared for the start of the game. Then he settles down a little bit and ends up giving you 15 outs. But you look up and it's 5 innings, 6 earned. It just hasn't looked very good. And these last 2 starts specifically, Anthony, 11 innings pitched, 10 hits, 10 earned runs, 2 homers allowed, 5 walks, 10 strikeouts. It's an 8.18 ERA. As we get into September here, we're looking for him to string together 2 or 3 starts in a row where you say, that's my guy in the playoffs. I can break up my lefties with him. Right now, he's not giving you any indication that he can be that guy. He just doesn't look very good.
Yeah, it's weird, Bob. And the things that are going wrong with Aaron Nola are not the typical things that go wrong with Aaron Nola. That's what's so concerning with this is, Nola is a guy who usually makes mistakes and then pays for them. This is lack of command. Like his stuff is there. He can't command his fastball right now. And he's walking guys. He hit a batter. And yeah, did he settle? He even settled into the Milwaukee game, right? I mean, after the first 5 batters, but all 5 of them scored, right? And even if you're looking at it, he walked a guy, hit a batter, gave up a clean single, gave up a bloop single, and then gave up a home run. Like,
Yeah.
Can't have that happen. And then he settles down and he's fine the rest of the game. Like, it's like, okay, where was that in the first inning? And it's the same thing with the Braves. The Braves game, it was very similar. Like, no fastball command early. He put runners on base, had some traffic, gave up 3 runs. The Braves ran out of that inning, or else it would have been worse. And then he settled down the rest of the game, and he was fine. So I think that's the only reason why Rob Thompson sits there after the game and goes, I have utter confidence in Knowles. He's going to figure it out. He's done it before. Remember 23, same thing. He was struggling, and then he figured it out at the end of the year and gave us some good starts, and then went into the playoffs and was really good. He's not wrong. That's exactly what happened. But these are different problems for Aaron Nola right now than what he usually has. Like, he's not a guy who struggles with command. And this is a command problem that if he can't rectify it, he's not worth using.
All right, so I guess there's 2 different ways to look at this. Moving forward, he has 4 starts left to basically show that
it's about right.
He can be a guy in October. I guess I would ask you at this point, I can't ask you, like, what do you expect out of him in the next 4 starts? You don't know. I don't know. But I guess what we can talk about is what would we need to see from him over the next 4 starts to change their approach in the postseason right now in terms of how they line up this rotation? Because to me, I think he's on the outside looking in right now, and I don't think he's a bullpen option either. And I think he's a good guy and would understand if you left him off the playoff roster. But man, wouldn't that be something if you ended up leaving Aaron Nola off a playoff roster?
Yeah, it would be. It absolutely would be. And so the way I look at it, Bob, is that I think that he's going to be given every opportunity here to keep that spot. Like, if you ask me today, I still think he's in that position, right? I'm going to take you back to 23 because it's really kind of funny because it was almost to the day. They played in Milwaukee in the first week of September in 2023, and Nola went out and gave up 7 earned, 8 hits, 3 walks. I
remember that game. I bet you if you go back and look at tweets and text messages and things like that from that night, you'd be like, he's cooked. He's screwed.
Yeah, he was, and his his ERA at the time was 4.55.
His ERA was 6.7.
Yeah, well, I mean, that difference was a full season versus the partial season, right? But then his next start out, he gave up 4. It was against the Marlins, believe it or not. Although he's not going to pitch against the Marlins, his next start's going to be against the Mets. But his 4 1/3, 4 runs, again, was not good. Then it was his last 3 starts. Because at that point, after that Marlins start, it was like, can you even use this guy in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Then his last 3 starts at St. Louis, at the Braves, who were a good team. The Phillies ended up playing him in the playoffs. And then the clincher to clinch the playoff spot against the Pirates. He goes, the game against the Cardinals, it was only 4 2/3. We only gave up 2 earned runs. It was kind of like, okay, figured something out. The Braves, 6 innings, 2 runs. The Pirates, 6 2/3, 1 run, and then he's into the playoffs. So I think it's kind of the same trajectory. If he does this, the same thing he did in 23, then I think he'll start one of those games. If he continues to pitch as he has the last few starts, where he's given up runs in the first inning and he has no fastball command, then no, he's not going to start in the playoffs.
All right, let me take this a step further. We talked about on Monday the addition of Walker Buehler, who we will see pitch in a little over a week. He's here for a reason, and I think that the expectation is that he could potentially help you out of the bullpen because of the experience and the big game nature, and he has a little bit of a flair for the dramatic, and so great. Do you think that there's a scenario where, especially in the event that they would have to use a 4-man rotation, if Aaron Nola cannot show that he is good enough to trust in October, that you would still that you would go to a guy like Walker Buehler? Like, I mean, Noah Syndergaard pitched in the postseason for the 2022 Phillies, and like he wasn't exactly a guy that inspired a ton of confidence. Like, could they just go veteran, take the ball? Like, let's just roll on roll on that experience and like, yeah, I guess what I'm really asking you here is Walker Buehler a potential factor as a postseason starter for this team?
Possibly. I mean, there's a lot of unknown right now. There's just really is a lot of unknown. I'll tell you another name that no one's talking about, Bob, that I find interesting. And I don't know if there's enough time, but the one guy who no one talks about that the Phillies traded for at the deadline was Matt Manning, who they got from Detroit. And made his first start for the organization. I think it was Saturday, whatever day it was. It was over the weekend. Pitched at Reading. Only threw 2 innings, struck out 5 guys in 2 innings, and that was it. I don't know. Like, is that another possibility? Are they kind of under the radaring that a little bit? Like, why do you trade for a guy with 4 years of major league experience, kind of work with him for a little bit, and then, okay, his first start is at Reading, right? Like, what is the purpose of adding that guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the obvious omission in this conversation is Taijuan Walker, but I don't want to. We're not going to I'm not trying to be cute. I'm not trying to take digs at the guy. He's a non-factor for me.
He's going to be a long man in the playoffs.
He's not a guy that you're going to look at to start a postseason game. So to me,
he'll be on the roster, but he won't start. Yeah.
So if you need so there's 2 different ways to look at this. If you only need 3, are you going all 3 lefties right now? And if you need 4. In this moment, who do you think the most likely person is to be that 4th guy? I know you said they're going to give Nola every opportunity. You can't, with a straight face right now, say that you expect him to grab the bull by the horns.
No. And so the interesting thing to me, Bob, and I think I may have mentioned this on the last episode. I don't remember if I did or not, if it was just us talking. But the Phillies have lined up this rotation with announcing Buehler going on the 12th on Friday. They've set it up so that all 3 lefties will face the Dodgers in LA. No Nola, no Walker. It's the 3 lefties are going to face the Dodgers. I think that's their litmus test because they think they're going to play the Dodgers. They think if we get the bye, the Dodgers are going to win, and we're going to trot out we're going to see how they play against our lefties. Obviously, they got Ohtani and Freeman at the top, both left-handed. You want to throw lefties at those guys. I kind of get the sense that that's what they're lining up for. If it works, if it goes well, and you end up playing the Dodgers in the NLDS, I think you're getting those 3 lefties. I really do. I think if it's a different team, it might be a different scenario.
I have a very hard time envisioning Aaron Nola pitching against the Dodgers in a postseason series. I just don't think that will end well.
Yeah, you're probably right. But I think if it's the Padres, that could be different. Because the Padres' better hitters are on the other side, right? So maybe you want the right-hander against San Diego. If it's the Mets, who knows? The Mets are, you know what I'm saying? It's really going to be one of those 3 teams. I can't imagine it being anybody else that the Phillies would play unless they completely. It
just feels like to me that right now, if you need collapse. 3 guys, it's all the lefties. I mean, I know they'd like to break them up. I know they'd like to take one of those guys and push them into a bullpen, and maybe they do that later in the postseason. Just situationally, a guy's available, they're shorthanded, they want to stack the pen, fine. But I think if you're in a 3-game spot and you have those 3 lefties available, I think you have to use them because I think that those 3 guys are the ones that are going to give you the best chance to win the game. You know who's not going to be? It's not going to be Andrew Painter. And
yeah,
I think on the bright side with Andrew Painter is that he's pitched a full season. He has remained healthy. He's not skipping starts. We're not hearing about soreness and tightness and velo drops. And that's the glass half full outlook on Andrew Painter, that he's held up physically as he comes back from Tommy John. And to get through a full year, I think is really encouraging. However, I thought the Phillies were maybe conservative at the time in saying July-ish, right? We've talked about July-ish so much on the show. I thought it was a conservative approach about Andrew Painter's timeline. And, they should have been more conservative in hindsight. because he's nowhere near ready to contribute at a major league level right now, especially for a team that is contending for a championship. He has been, I mean, the results, I don't want to say he has been bad, because sometimes the process is more important than the results, especially in as you're at this point in your journey and your progression. But I mean, the results have been horrendous here. It just feels like every time he goes out, it's 5 innings, 6 innings, 4 earned, 6 earned, couple walks. What do you make? I mean, what do you make of it? Like, what do you make of it in terms of the Phillies miscalculating his readiness this season? And does any doubt whatsoever creep into your mind about what he possibly could be moving forward?
No, I don't go that far, because there's a reason that this guy is a top 3 pitching prospect in the sport. Like, you're not just thrown into that category willy-nilly. Like, and there's a reason every team wanted Andrew Painter and the Phillies wouldn't trade him, right? I mean, it's not just what you're doing. It's not just what you're looking at your own prospect and overvaluing him. Like, the sport recognizes where the talent is with this guy at 22 years old. But I think Rob Thompson finally admitting something publicly, told reporters out in Milwaukee, our Tim Kelly's was out there, and he said, well, I think everybody was excited about getting him back, but I think at the end of the day, you look back on it and you say, first time going through this, it usually takes 2 years for a guy to come back. He's talking about from Tommy John surgery. Yeah. I think we can all look back and think, man, probably should have expected this. Like, yeah, like that's the thing. And, the Phillies probably should have been a little bit more temperate of their expectations from the jump. They shouldn't have put a timeline on him. Dombrowski never should have said July-ish. They should have just said, when Andrew's ready to go, we'll have Andrew up. Until he's ready, he's just going to be pitching in AAA. I think maybe putting an expectation on top of the fact that the kid was trying to come back from Tommy John surgery, which isn't easy to do, set him up to fail more than maybe he would have.
I think you get into the offseason and you can look back on it and say, all right, he's super young. He held up, clean slate. Go out this winter, get yourself ready to come into spring training and compete for a starting spot. There are worse scenarios than that. He comes back, he's a shell of himself. He doesn't look anything like, he doesn't on a nightly basis display any of the traits that make him a special prospect. And that's not what has happened, but you can see that it's just not a finished product. And it's been there's no other way to frame it other than that it is disappointing. Like, while it is encouraging about the physical part of it and how he's still healthy, you're talking about a guy that you thought was going to probably enter your starting rotation, be a factor for you, to at least maybe helping you in the bullpen, to this. Where you're going out and signing veteran guys and scrap heap guys and talking about the Mannings of the world and the Mazes of the world. I mean, what you've done here is you've had to bring in reinforcements, because your initial plan, which is he was a centerpiece of, just fell apart.
Yeah, and so I think that the plan was ended up being faulty more so than the pitcher ended up being faulty, if that makes sense. Right? Because there's look, even in his last start, there was some encouraging stuff. He had 17 whiffs, even though he gives up 6 runs. Or
I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, like this, you look at it and say, like, okay, the characteristics are here. Like, he still has what everybody is. Yeah. All the buzz is warranted when you watch it in short spurts, but he just isn't able to put it together.
Right. And so that's where I think that it was the organizational plan was coming into the season was not the right one. And like, I think ultimately, if the Phillies don't win a championship this year, that's where we're going to go back to. We're not going to go back to what they did in this season. We're not going to go back to the deadline. We're going to go back to the winter of 2024 and say, this is where you screwed it up, because you had opportunities then to have enough depth to bring in the right people to make sure that this didn't go off the rails, or that you had at least enough in place that if certain things did go off the rails, you could not miss a beat. Kind of be like the Dodgers. Remember when we said, when Dodgers gave Ohtani that crazy ass contract and with all the deferred money and everything, and we sat there and said, well, what's your reaction to that? And so, well, you got to just do what they do. Don't worry about it. Like, don't whine about it. Don't sit there and go, oh, well, Dodgers are playing on another level than everybody else. No. Just go out and do what they do. Beat them at their own game.
Yeah.
So, like, you needed to prepare your roster. The Phillies spend a lot of money. I'm not trying to say they don't, but you needed to have a second and third plan in place that they didn't have in the offseason, and then they're left to try and rectify it and repair it in season, which is always the hardest thing to do. And to their credit, they've done a nice enough job of that to be where they are, but you didn't have to put yourself in this position, is what I'm trying to say. You could have done this and really bolstered this team at this point if you went out and got the right pieces in the winter.
Yeah. One other thing I want to talk about that kind of just stays on the not concerning track necessarily, but you watch Kyle Schwarber go out last week and hit 4 home runs in a game, and it's like I've never seen anything like this in my life. It hasn't been good since then at all. He's really this past week in particular, he's had some dreadful at bats. In fact, his last 5 games, he's 2 for his last, or is it 6? Yeah, I'm sorry, 6 games. He's 2 for his last 21 with 10 strikeouts. He's walked 5 times, which is nice, I guess. But he's had a number of situations where he's come up in key spots and just not been able to get a run in. Just the ebb and flow of the season. Is he kind of chasing a number right now? We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Could we see him maybe get a little too home run happy? What do you think with him right now? Are you seeing anything in particular that kind of makes you go, ooh? And I don't want to use the person's name, but we have a listener of the show who I'll frequently talk to via DM, and he, was like, I think he might be costing himself money. And I'm like, I don't think that at all. To be honest with you, I think teams will line up and take the 55 home runs that he's going to hit this year and, 940 OPS. And I don't think they're too worried about a 6-game streak in September. But, you take out that 4 home run game in the last 2 weeks or so, Kyle Schwarber has not looked particularly good. So I'm just kind of curious what you're thinking here.
No, as a matter of fact, if you take out the 4 home run game, again, we never say you can take
this. Yeah, you can't do that because it happened.
It happened, right? But if you did, he was 0 for 20 going into that game, and he's 2 for 21 since that game. Mm-hmm. So you could say 2 for 41 outside of the 4 home run game.
Runs mixed in.
Right.
It's a tough thing to just remove, It's hard to just pull out 4 home runs in a game. Yeah. But to the point, like, he has struggled a little bit. He has not looked like the model of consistency that he has been for much of this season.
Yeah. And the funny thing was that I'm not sure if it was the game before, or it might've been 2 games before the 4 homer game. We were in New York, and he came into how he gets sometimes when he's going through it, and he goes and spends like 45 minutes to an hour after the game in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
And in the batting cage rather, and then wanders into the clubhouse with his bats still in full uniform when the media gets in there, right? Because he's working on. So he's a guy that really gets after the work when he's struggling after a game. Not even like, oh, wait till tomorrow, I'll get in the cage early. No, he goes right to the cage after the game. And I do think that there might be an element, Bob, of he's 1 homer away from 50. And it's that, you always say like that milestone number is the hardest one to get when you're trying to get it. And I think there might be a little bit of that with him right now. Could well be. So that's how I look at it. But I'm not, am I worried about it? I'm not. No. I'm not worried about it at all.
All right, let's talk about what we're seeing on the field that's good right now. Let me just throw one at you.
By the way, real fast, like I don't want to lose the Schwarber thing. I thought this was interesting. Jeff Passan put out an article on ESPN yesterday, day before, whatever it was, talking about what he thinks some of the big free agents are going to be looking at, or who might be in on some of the. He mentioned the Phillies on basically everybody, like Kyle Tucker, Kyle Schwarber, Alex Bregman. Phillies were in. He had the Phillies as like the first team on all of them, right? But he did suggest that Schwarber's number is probably going to be somewhere around 4 years, 120 million. Are you doing that?
It's tough. You know what? Cop-out answer here. If I have a really good plan B, I would consider not doing it. But I have to execute plan B. Like plan B has to be a lock, and it better be something that you can sell to the fan base that keeps you in 2026 thinking we're all in. We're in for Zach Wheeler. We're in for Bryce Harper. We're in for this core group of guys, you know, the ones that stay. You better have a good plan B.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would do it because I think you kind of have to.
Right. That's a lot of money and a lot of years.
Kyle Schwarber's not here and Kyle Tucker is. You okay with that?
It gives you more flexibility, but you need more pop elsewhere.
Yeah.
Like you got to replace that. Because no one else is giving you those home runs, right? So Kyle Tucker will help, but you gotta get something else too. You basically have to do a 2-for-1 in my mind.
You do.
In order for the fans to accept that. If you're not going to re-sign Schwarber, you have to bring in 2 big names to replace him.
I think it hurts too because at the end of the day, it's about production. It's about the home runs. It's about driving in the runs. It's about the 100+ walks. But there's something about this particular player that's very likable. He's very, for whatever reason, he's a very relatable guy. I've said it on this show for a long time. I mean, I've always been really impressed by him. Go back to 2022 and listen to our previous show. I would say like he's the guy. I'll pat myself on the back for this. Before he became like the leader of the Phillies and everyone kind of talked about that, I said in 22, I was like, that's the guy. Like, that's the guy they're feeding off of. He's the reason that in 22 in September when they were playing like shit, they were able to stabilize and get it together. And he said, we're not doing this. You know, I give him the credit for that. I think that there's something to be said for that. I just think he's also a real likable guy and he comes across as affable. And I think that makes it even harder. You know, it's not like you're looking at this guy and saying, oh, yeah, he hits 53 home runs, but he's kind of an asshole, you know?
Right.
So he kind of feels like a guy I can go have a beer with, too. And so when you're selling that to your fans, like I said, you better have a hell of a plan B if you're not going to do 4-1-20 with them.
Yeah, I agree.
Who I don't think will be here is Nick Castellanos next season, and now he's not even here half the time, Anthony. When we look at this team, I mean, we're in full-on platoon mode, and I think good on Rob Thompson and good on the Phillies for finally getting there. It was a little bit of like a soft landing. They probably waited too long, quite honestly, to do it. Did I mishear Rob, though, this week when he said, like, my job is basically to put the best lineup on the field that I think is going to give us the best chance to win on a given night? Like, that's pretty strong. Like, I think we've arrived at, like, we don't think Nick Castellanos can really help us most nights.
Yeah, I mean, it pretty much got to that. Like, he said, you called a platoon. He said there still might be a couple times where it's like a rotation. So I still think that here and there he's going to get that odd start against a righty. I don't think it's a strict Kepler versus right, Castellanos versus left. But I think more often than not, it's going to be that. And that's kind of what we're headed toward in the playoffs, is that Castellanos will only play against a left-handed pitcher in the postseason.
So in that, you have a new center fielder. Do you kind of think that they are finally getting to where I was hoping they'd be 2 weeks ago, which is Harrison Bader's got to be your everyday center fielder?
Yes, he's in the line. There's no reason to take him out of the lineup. Everything he does for you from a defensive perspective, the offense he provides, the energy, the swagger. There's a lot that
I'll give Dave Dombrowski credit. Obviously he's been very productive after a slow start here, and they need that production. I mean, this outfield desperately needed an increase in production, but that move in particular also has addressed, and the Duran move as well has added some excitement and a little bit of needed, I think, juice to this team. But I think the everyday nature of Harrison Bader's existence really addresses a very noticeable and longstanding problem with this current group, which is they desperately, desperately needed some spark, some jolt of electricity, some different vibe, different new energy. And that stuff I think sometimes can be a little bit overanalyzed or overhyped, but I truly felt like last year they very much needed that. They didn't get it. I felt at the beginning of this year they needed it. They didn't get it. And good on Dave Dombrowski, I think, for saying not only will he help us and solidify what is a really just a below average outfield, but also I think it's going to address some of that intangible nature of the problem.
And I will tell you, Bob, and it's the reason that they chose Garrett Stubbs over Otto Kemp or anybody else from AAA, right? Like the person that you were calling up to be the 28th man on this team is not going to play. Yeah. Just they're not. The way that they use the guys on the team, they're just not going to play. So why not bring someone in who's going to be that, bring that spark energy-wise, bring that vibe, bring that, personality. So it ties in there as well on a much smaller level, but that's exactly what Bader is as a player who is actually contributing to the team. Yeah. So like, I think that's it, man. Like that's really, Bader was a big I did a story, I don't know if you saw it, where I looked at the trade deadline a month later. And I basically did my own little formula where I looked at the team's record since the trade deadline. I looked at how much Fangraphs WAR each individual player has added, and then a per player WAR addition to the teams, and kind of did this little formula and came up with a ranking system of who has gotten the most out of their trade deadline since July 31st. And of the 16 teams analyzed, the Phillies,
the Padres or Mets. I know that much.
The Phillies were number one. Look, the Padres have gotten positives out of Laureano's been good. Mason Miller's been what they expected. He has a setup, but he's a setup guy, not a closer there. So the Padres have gotten that, which is positive, but the other guys have not hit for them. Yeah. So I look at it and say the Phillies had right now, and things can change by November 1st. But right now, the Phillies have had the best deadline over anybody else as far as what they're getting out of the people that they got.
Yeah.
And this was just acquisitions. I didn't talk about signings like David Robertson. Like he wasn't considered as part of this thing. So
that they evaluate that, or they kind of count that as part of the trade deadline though as well.
Do.
And he's been really good. I know Monday was a little bit of an adventure, but yeah, David Robertson's done an awesome job for this team in the month he's been here.
Do you think, this is a question on that, do you think that he's going to kind of flip roles with Kerkering?
I think we talked about this Monday.
Did we
actually
talk about this?
We did, okay. Yeah, and I think he is. I think that I want to be fair, and I don't want to be super takey here or anything, but I just think that Ryan Kerkering has shown you a few times here that he's not quite ready for the big moment. I think he's talented. I think he's young. I think he can grow into it. But if things continue on the current trajectory, then I don't even think it's a consideration. I think that you go to Robertson in these key spots.
Yeah.
Trea Turner. Trea Turner.
Yeah.
Listen, 300 batting average, which is like a unicorn in today's baseball. His defense has been better this year. The numbers are great. I think you probably make an argument that he's a top 7 MVP candidate in the National League, maybe even, depending on the day, top 5. I don't know. I have always said that even last year he was productive. He had a pretty good year. 23, we know, was a disaster, and then he kind of salvaged it at the end. My complaint has been I can't count on one hand the number of big moments or big hits by Trea Turner. I was actually talking to Jack Fritz about this a couple months ago, and I know you and I have had similar conversations. I'm like, he just isn't a difference maker. He's not a difference maker. The numbers are fine, and he's okay, and I get why they did the deal. And you look at all those shortstops in that free agent class, he's been the best guy. He's a good player. I like him. He seems like a good dude. But I just don't feel like he really moves the needle. And now all of a sudden, this is your idea. I don't mean to steal your idea, but you you look at it and you're like, this guy has gotten a number of just massive hits for the Phillies here over the last couple of months. Like, it feels like all of a sudden it's just become his thing, which is like a total 180 from his first 2+ years here.
Yeah, no, it's a clutch gene all of a sudden. Like where it came from, I don't know, but he's come up, and even most recently, obviously the game yesterday, and then the walk-off hit on Saturday. Like 2 outs, need a hit, and here's Trea coming up to the plate, and he delivers.
And what's great about it is he's doing it after a big letdown. Like, it's the guy before him that you're like, all you got to do is this, and then you feel like they're going to blow it. Like, they're going to miss another opportunity. He comes up and he goes not so fast. And I mean, that just, obviously these hits are happening in the 8th, extra innings, like 9th inning. So they're winning the game. But what that just does from a feel standpoint, to be able to pick someone up, I think that there's like a little bit of a domino effect to that. It changes the feel for a team. It changes the feel for a clubhouse. It changes the feel next time you get into a tight spot or a tough situation. I think it just kind of loosens everybody up a little bit. And I think that there can be a positive and lasting impact in that. I mean, he's been, by every definition, a difference maker for this team this year. And I don't know what it looks like for the next, whatever it is, decade. And I don't know if we're ever going to see the guy just like flash to the point where like he is the MVP, because that's when they signed him. That's what we all thought. Like, they're getting a guy that's probably going to win an MVP for them. And at least this year he's in the zip code. I don't think we're ever going to see that guy, but I mean, he's had a fantastic year, and it almost, I think, does go overlooked to some extent.
No, I agree. And that's what when they're going to have key at bats in the postseason, right? Like, we were kind of sitting here thinking, all right, if Schwarber or Harper doesn't do it, nobody's going to do it for this team. Like they're the only guys that you kind of felt going into an at bat. You feel like, okay, there's a reason to have positive hope with these 2 guys coming up to the plate. Trea Turner has added his name to that mix. There's positive hope when Trea Turner steps to the plate in the big postseason at bat. So now a third of your lineup you're feeling good about.
And maybe it's a prisoner of the moment type thing, but I feel a little bit like that with Bader. Like, I feel like, hey, this guy can give me an at bat here that gets it done. And I'll even give both Bryson Stott and Alec Bohm some credit, because we've seen here this week them fail in key situations, but then they've also delivered in key situations. And I mean, I give him credit for that. I mean, even Stott yesterday, he has a situation where it's like, elevate the ball, man. Just elevate the ball, and he can't do it. But then he comes back later in the game and gets you like in a key spot. So,
do you take anything, though? Do you take anything out of you're giving Alec Bohm credit, but do you take anything out of the fact that the Phillies dropped him to 8th in the lineup?
Yeah, I think the Phillies don't think that Alec Bohm's that good.
Well, I agree, and that's probably why Passan has them listed first on the Alex Bregman thing for the offseason. But
I could be wrong here, but let's just like read the tea leaves. Like, they wanted to move on from him last year, and
correct,
they couldn't or didn't have value to do so. So it was in their best interest to bring him back, because he's a useful player. I mean, he's okay defensively. He's made himself okay. We know the deal. He can hit for average, blah, blah, blah. You know how I feel about him. I think he's terribly flawed, but like, he's useful. I don't think they want him here. I think they're ready to move on. But
I'm saying, usually when Rob drops a guy into the 8th spot, it's usually on the brink of losing some playing time.
Right.
Are you of the mindset that this maneuver is similar, or do you think that it's just we're just going to ride with Bohm, but he's just going to bat at the bottom of the order?
I think it's more that. I think you have to use your bet. For some of the frustrations with him and some of the shortcomings in his game, you'd have a hard time convincing me, based on what they currently have, that he's not your best option when it comes down to it. Now, do I want him hitting 4th? No. The idea of Alec Bohm being anywhere near a 3 or 4 hitter in a lineup that like is trying to win a championship, to me, is laughable. It's one of the things I said to you. I was like, no matter how well they play or how hot they get, if they're going to put that guy in the cleanup spot in a postseason game, like, they're not going to win. Like, they just cannot win like that. So now that you've removed him from there, like, that I can get behind. Like, Alex hitting 7th, 8th. Like, okay, like that suits my needs a little bit better.
Yeah, I just didn't know if they were thinking about. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm good with him down there. I have no problem with it. I just didn't know if the Phillies are sitting there thinking, if he doesn't start showing us a little bit of something, maybe Edmundo Sosa gets a little bit more time.
Well, he's another guy that just changes the energy of it a little bit. You and I have discussed numerous times on this show that the more you play him, the more exposed he tends to get. But again, in the short series and short sprints in October, you got to play a guy that's hot. So if Sosa were to get hot and Bone were to be cool, maybe they would at that point going in ride the hot hand if that's how it played out.
Yeah.
All right, I got to get out of here. So let's do one last thing and get out.
Yes. One last thing. Taylor Trammell. Do you see this? Do you know anything about this?
I don't.
All right, good. That's because you're paying too much attention to football. It's all good.
I didn't even see the passing article you're talking about.
Yeah. So Taylor Trammell hits a double for the Astros against the Yankees yesterday. Aaron Boone asks the umpire to check the bat. They have a little bit of a discussion. They get on the horn with New York, whatever, and they take the bat out of play and hand it to an off-field official, and they're going to look into the bat because Boone thinks that it was shaved down.
Okay. And
when Boone's asked about it after the game, he says, well, it just looks a little shaved by the logo. Where the logo is, there's some discoloration there. I'm not actually accusing Taylor. I'm just kind of suggesting that, maybe there was just something wrong with that bat. I just want to have it get checked out. Maybe we're wrong. I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. How much gamesmanship is there here? Because Taylor Trammell played for Aaron Boone last year. Played for the Yankees, albeit for a very short period of time, but he was on that roster and played in games for the New York Yankees. Do they know something, or is this just more Yankees-Astros drama because there's a real possibility these two teams play again in the postseason?
Yeah, it feels like there's a little bit of that going on. I mean, as you were talking, I'm like, let's see. I just wanted to make sure I was equipped here to speak about it. I'm looking at his quotes, and he goes like, he was always straight up with me. Like I thought he was kind of like, thinks I'm a good guy. He goes, I don't even know how to shave a bat, he said.
Yeah.
So it does feel like a little bit of a like let's get in their heads thing, but I think that there's always like a suspicious eye with the Astros, and I think it's like just sending a message, like like a little bit of that, like we're ready for you.
Yeah.
So
it's just weird that you pick on poor Taylor Trammell.
I know Boone gets a lot of shit like from the New York media, and I'm sure that if he were in Philadelphia, he'd get a ton of shit from me and all of us people and all that. But he's one thing you gotta say about that guy is like he always gives you some content, man. Like Boone is always on a show saying something that's a little bit like always tweaking somebody, always poking a little bit, always quick to tell you that you don't know shit if he disagrees with you.
Yeah,
he's an interesting cat, Aaron Boone.
He is. It'd be interesting to see if he ended up here one day. He's got a connection to the city. He's got a connection to the team.
Yeah.
I could see potentially one day he gets let go of New York. Rob Thompson retires or gets fired or whatever, and that's the direction the Phillies.
You think that's the way they go, or do you think that Caleb Cotham is a manager in waiting?
I don't know. I don't know if Caleb wants to be a manager. I think Caleb really likes the role that he's in, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
fair enough.
Anyway, I thought that was an interesting little nugget there.
Absolutely. I like that. That's fun.
Phil's Marlins this weekend. I'll take Phillies winning the series.
Yeah.
2 out of 3. Be nice for us to get a sweep. I think they can get a sweep, but I'll just take 2 out of 3. There's always one game down there that just goes sideways for.
It's gonna be Sunday. I can feel it now. You got red zone on. You got the second screen, and you're watching the Phillies down 5-1 in the 7th, and you go, whatever, football's on. It's okay. It'll be all right.
Yeah, you don't need the second screen. You just flip over when red zone goes to commercial now.
Commercial, yeah. They're for what did I read yesterday? Schefter in the PR push, 4 15-second commercials. It's a fractional amount of time. Everyone relax.
Everyone relax. Yeah, just wait till next year when
Yeah.
ESPN actually has it, right?
Yeah.
It's something else. Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Fighting Words. Don't forget, you can always subscribe to Fighting Words on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, wherever you get your podcasts. But the best place is right here on YouTube. Subscribe, click the thumbs up, ring the bell. You'll never miss a show. You'll get an alert on your phone or your device and let you know when Bob and I go live, which maybe at 10 o'clock, maybe at 10:30, depends on the given day. And if you're listening in the podcast feed and you want to find us on YouTube, it's youtube.com/@fightingwords. So for Bob Wankel, I'm Anthony Sanfilippo. Hey, Bob, I'm headed with the boys and my dad up to Cooperstown for the
Very nice.
They can take him to see the Hall of Fame. That's what you
Very
may see.
nice.
My younger son Andrew was over my shoulder at one point, already dressed in his Phillies gear, ready
to
go.
Go. I'll enjoy that.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be a nice weekend up there. But we will be back on Monday. So I don't know how much of the actual Marlins series I'll be able to watch, but I'll be tracking, following along. And we will be back to talk all about it on Monday. So everyone, for Bob Wankel, I'm Anthony Sanfilippo saying have a wonderful weekend, and we will talk to you soon.